I want to welcome you to the website if you're joining us for the first time. I realize that some of you may have recently learned about my campaign and about the nature of the website itself, which is an interactive, community-based website. And the reason it's a community-based website for you to not just read what I'm thinking and listening to my thoughts about my candidacy for APA president, but also a place to interact with each other about some of the most important topics in psychology today. My campaign is based on connections with each other and connections with the society in which we live and work. And so, welcome to the website if you're here for the first time.
So, we're going to have some conversation about this whole connection thing, right? Why did you settle on that, Doug?
You know, my life as a psychologist, both in my clinical practice and my life in organized psychology, has always really been defined by the concept of connections. Early on, working in the APA Council of Representatives, for example, to deal with policies having to do with LGBT people and other marginalized groups, I really found it was important to make connections between groups that maybe didn't really spend much time with each other, know each other very well, or talk to each other. For example, early on we worked on a task force to bring the LGBT division and the military psychologists together, and to this day that's a coalition that remains quite strong. And it really taught me a lesson about how we really need to reach out to other groups, whoever they may be. And that is one very, very core principle on which I'm running for president.
You know, so many members of APA that I talk to who aren't involved in governance talk about how alienated they feel from the association. You know, the group of us who've been in governance, the 160 people on council, the couple hundred people who are on boards and committees, they really feel a part of APA. But what do you have to say to the average member who's wondering, why should I still be a part of this behemoth that I don't really understand?
Well, it's an easy thing to do in our profession because, after all, it isn't just the association from which we feel alienated sometimes. We feel alienated from each other. We work in offices. We have very little contact with our community. And we already are, whether we're academics or educators or clinicians, we're already working so hard. It's really difficult to add on other tasks. But in reality, we do have to make a little bit of the effort ourselves to connect with an association that is now much more accessible via the internet, via the website. The reason to belong to APA really are twofold. Number one, APA is doing the heavy lifting for all of us as psychologists, whether or not we belong, and our members. And by that I mean all of our tremendous advocacy efforts on behalf of practitioners and reimbursement issues, on behalf of scholars and academics and educators in terms of securing research funding. Those are just a couple examples. Yeah, I think the second reason has to do with our professional identity. We need each other in order to feel connected to the profession, in order to feel proud of being psychologists. And that's something that happens much more easily these days through internet and social media as well.
You know, I knew you when you went to your first APA convention.
Yeah.
A long time ago.
A long time ago.
Do you have advice for people about how do you get from that, first walking into a convention where you know almost no one to where you are now?
There's no question convention can be daunting, and yet it can also be exciting at the same time, because that's where we encounter each other in the good old-fashioned way, face to face. And I have two pieces of advice for someone attending their first APA convention. Number one is APA every year sponsors a program to help educate people about how to manage convention, how to find ways to make it enjoyable, how not to overdo it, how to, balance your time between educational programs and social time. But the other really important thing, and the thing that certainly worked for me, and I know worked for you as well, is find a home in APA. APA has 54 divisions, and as many state and Canadian province associations and territories as you can name. And so it is important to find one of those places, whether it's a home among other practitioners or other scholars or other educators or other people interested in policy and public interest. There is a home for you in APA, and you need to seek it out. Go to the social hour that division sponsors, go to the executive committee meeting if you like, and get acquainted personally with other people who are interested in the things you're interested in.
So if folks are at convention, would you like them to come up and say hi?
I would love it. You'll recognize me by my Doug button and also probably by my height. Please come and say hello. I'd love to meet you in person and hear a little bit about, not just tell you about my initiatives, because you can learn about those here on the website. I'd like to hear from you what your concerns are and what your needs are as a psychologist.